The story of the Kar98k begins long before the outbreak of World War II, rooted in the legacy of the Mauser rifle that had defined German small arms for decades. In the aftermath of World War I, Germany faced severe restrictions on arms development under the Treaty of Versailles. Yet German engineers and military planners quietly continued research into firearms that could one day restore their army to modern standards. The Kar98k, a shortened and refined version of the pre-war Gewehr 98, was the culmination of decades of incremental improvements, experimentation, and adaptation to the realities of 20th century warfare. By the early 1930s, the Reichswehr, Germany's limited post-war army, recognized the need for a reliable, accurate, and versatile service rifle. The Gewehr 98, though robust and powerful, was too long for the increasingly mobile battlefield tactics envisioned by military planners. A new rifle was needed, one that could be carried easily by soldiers across trenches, forests, and urban environments while maintaining the Mauser action's legendary reliability. The Karabiner 98 Kurz, or Kar98k, was born from this need. A carbine-length rifle with a shortened barrel, lighter weight, and all the durability of its predecessor. The rifle's design was deceptively simple. Chambered for the 7.92 57mm Mauser cartridge, it fired a round that balanced stopping power with controllable recoil. Its bolt-action mechanism, perfected over decades, allowed soldiers to cycle rounds quickly while maintaining the rifle's signature accuracy. 5 rounds were loaded via a stripper clip into an internal magazine, a system that emphasized discipline and marksmanship over rapid, uncontrolled fire. In essence, the Kar98k demanded a soldier's attention, focus, and steady hand, qualities the German military valued highly. Production planning began in earnest in the mid-1930s as Nazi Germany quietly rearmed in defiance of Versailles restrictions. Mauser, the legendary arms manufacturer, refined its existing tooling and processes to mass-produce the Kar98k to the exacting specifications demanded by the Reichswehr and later the Wehrmacht. By the time Hitler's expansionist ambitions became clear, Germany had not only a rifle design ready for war, but also the industrial infrastructure to arm millions of soldiers efficiently. The Kar98k was also a reflection of German military philosophy. Unlike the semi-automatic rifles being explored by other nations, German doctrine emphasized accuracy, discipline, and combined arms tactics. A soldier with a Kar98k could engage a target at several hundred meters, relying on precision rather than volume of fire. This philosophy would shape the rifle's use throughout World War II, defining both its strengths and limitations on the battlefield. The early use of the Kar98k during Germany's invasion of the Rhineland and later in the annexation of Austria and Czechoslovakia offered valuable field tests. Soldiers praised its reliability in cold, wet, and urban conditions. Unlike some other rifles of the era, it rarely jammed, and its robust construction allowed it to withstand prolonged use without losing zero on the sights. Despite its success, the Kar98k was not without limitations. The bolt-action mechanism, while reliable and accurate, restricted the soldier's rate of fire compared to emerging semi-automatic weapons. In close-quarters combat, the need to manually cycle each round could leave riflemen vulnerable to faster-firing opponents. However, German military planners viewed these limitations as secondary to the advantages of precision, durability, and tactical integration within squads supported by machine guns and mortars. As Germany prepared for full-scale war in 1939, the Kar98k had become the backbone of the Wehrmacht's infantry forces. It was standard issue for every rifleman, with tens of thousands produced and distributed in anticipation of the coming conflict. The Kar98k's design also allowed for adaptations. Sniper variants equipped with telescopic sights would later play a decisive role on the Eastern Front, instilling terror in enemy troops and earning reputations for deadly precision. The same basic rifle that soldiers carried on the march could, with modifications, become an instrument of individual skill and lethal specialization. Early in the war, soldiers discovered that the Kar98k required care and attention. Its wooden stock, though sturdy, could warp in damp conditions if not properly maintained. Lubrication of the bolt was critical to avoid stiffness, especially in cold weather. Yet these minor inconveniences were outweighed by the rifle's consistent performance under fire. Unlike some contemporaries, which could fail in mud, sand, or snow, the Kar98k remained dependable, fostering confidence among German infantrymen who relied on every shot to survive. The rifle's psychological impact on both German troops and their opponents cannot be understated. The sound of a Kar98k shot carried far across the battlefield, signaling deadly precision rather than mere volume. Enemy soldiers quickly learned to fear its reach, especially when paired with well-trained marksmen who could pick off targets from hundreds of meters. In this sense, the Kar98k was not merely a weapon of metal and wood, it was a tool of discipline, fear, and battlefield control. Training manuals emphasized marksmanship under duress, teaching soldiers to fire accurately while moving, taking cover, and coordinating with squad members. Soldiers were drilled to respect the rifle's limitations while exploiting its strengths, such as range, stopping power, and the stability offered by the bolt action. This focus on skill and technique helped define the German infantry experience, making the Kar98k a weapon that demanded respect from both its user and its target. From its conception in the 1930s to its deployment across Europe and beyond, the Kar98k represented the marriage of engineering excellence and military doctrine. It was a rifle that demanded skill, rewarded precision, and shaped the tactics of a generation of soldiers. Its presence on the battlefield was a constant reminder of German preparation, discipline, and lethal capability. A small but formidable piece of the machinery that would soon engulf the world in conflict. In the coming years, as Germany launched its Blitzkrieg campaigns, the Kar98k would become inseparable from the image of the Wehrmacht. Soldiers carrying it stormed across borders, advanced through cities, and faced enemies armed with rifles, submachine guns, and machine guns. The rifle's reliability allowed German forces to maintain pressure in diverse conditions, from the frozen landscapes of the Soviet Union to the muddy fields of France. By the end of 1939, the Kar98k was not just a rifle. It was a symbol of a nation's rearmament and a prelude to the horrors of global war. Its design, production, and deployment would influence countless battles, shape the fate of soldiers on both sides, and leave an indelible mark on the history of firearms. The story of the Kar98k had only just begun, and the coming years would reveal both its brilliance and its terrifying role in the conflicts to come. As the German war machine surged across Europe in 1939 and 1940, the Karabiner 98k became the defining instrument of the infantryman. It was the rifle that accompanied soldiers into the forests of Poland, the frozen plains of Belgium, and the urban labyrinths of France. Its presence was ubiquitous. Virtually every rifleman carried one, and its characteristics shaped how the Wehrmacht fought, advanced, and sometimes survived. The rifle's bolt-action mechanism required soldiers to operate with deliberation and discipline. Unlike semi-automatic weapons, the Kar98k demanded a calculated approach to engagement. Each shot counted. Soldiers were trained to fire from cover, to aim carefully, and to use the rifle's accuracy at range to maximum effect. This disciplined approach was reflected in German infantry doctrine, where marksmanship and squad coordination were central to battlefield success. One of the most common deployment scenarios for the Kar98k was during the Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, campaigns of 1939–1941. The rifle's lightweight and shortened carbine length made it ideal for soldiers advancing rapidly through villages, forests, and urban streets. While machine guns provided suppressive fire and armoured vehicles spearheaded assaults, the Kar98k served as the reliable, precise weapon for riflemen who moved with the main force. Soldiers carrying the Kar98k had to maintain it meticulously, even under adverse conditions. Cold, rain, mud, and sand could all impede operation if care was neglected. Yet the Mauser design proved remarkably resilient. Reports from the Eastern Front describe soldiers using their rifles for days in snow and sub-zero temperatures, with the bolt still cycling smoothly and the sights holding zero. Such reliability gave German infantrymen confidence in the weapon, fostering a psychological advantage over opponents who might not enjoy the same consistency from their arms. Beyond regular infantry use, the Kar98k proved adaptable for specialized roles. Snipers were among the most famous users of the rifle in a modified form. Selected for accuracy and fitted with telescopic sights such as the ZF-41, these marksmen became a source of terror for enemy troops. A skilled sniper could pick off officers, machine gun teams, or any exposed soldier with deadly precision. On the Eastern Front, particularly during the siege of Stalingrad, the presence of German snipers wielding scoped Kar98ks forced Soviet soldiers to adopt extreme caution, sometimes freezing in place for minutes at a time to avoid a single well-aimed shot. The rifle's reach and stopping power made it effective at longer ranges than most battlefield engagements. Its iron sights were graduated to several hundred meters, and trained soldiers could deliver accurate fire well beyond 400 meters. While this extended reach did not compensate for its slower rate of fire compared to semi-automatic rifles, it allowed German infantry to exploit open terrain and maintain control over advancing enemy units. One of the defining aspects of the Kar98k in combat was the psychological weight it carried. Even when not fired, the rifle was a symbol of German precision and discipline. Enemy soldiers recognized the danger inherent in every shot and every bolt cycle sound. Reports from the early campaigns in Poland and France often describe terrified infantry who learned quickly that raising their heads or moving recklessly could result in immediate casualties. In urban or dense terrain, the rifle's bolt action limited rapid engagement, and semi-automatic or submachine guns often outpaced it in firepower. German troops adapted by using the rifle's bayonet for close combat, treating it as a combined firearm and melee weapon. Training manuals instructed soldiers on bayonet drills, room clearing, and ambush tactics, ensuring that the rifle remained versatile even in environments where its long-range advantage was reduced. The Kar98k also saw service in defensive operations, where its precision and reliability could dominate choke points. In fortified positions, a small team of riflemen with Kar98ks could cover wide approaches, engage targets at distance, and hold their ground even against numerically superior forces. Field reports highlight instances where squads, though outnumbered, leveraged their rifles' range and accuracy to delay enemy advances and inflict disproportionate casualties. By 1940, Germany had established a vast network of manufacturing and distribution, ensuring that soldiers rarely faced shortages of rifles or ammunition. The rifle's design allowed for ease of repair, and trained personnel could maintain or replace components in the field. Late war adaptations, known as Kriegsmodell versions, simplified production to meet increasing demand without sacrificing the rifle's core reliability. The Kar98k's combat reputation was bolstered by numerous soldier accounts and unit diaries. For instance, Wehrmacht veterans recalled advancing through the forests of Belarus, engaging partisan forces with disciplined, aimed fire from their Mausers. Each shot was measured, each target considered, and the rifle's accuracy allowed small units to operate effectively against irregular enemies. These accounts highlight not only the technical prowess of the rifle, but also the disciplined mindset that German training instilled in its users. On the Eastern Front, the rifle became a tool of terror. Soviet soldiers described the chilling precision of German marksmen, whose shots seemed to appear from nowhere. Entire platoons learned to move cautiously, avoiding open ground and limiting exposure to potential rifle fire. The Kar98k also played a role in squad coordination. German infantry doctrine emphasized a combination of rifles, machine guns, and grenades. Riflemen, using the Kar98k, provided aimed support for automatic weapons, picked off key targets, and maintained the integrity of the line. The rifle's accuracy allowed squads to extend their effective firepower without relying solely on heavier weapons, reinforcing the tactical flexibility of German units. In addition to conventional battlefield roles, the Kar98k's sniper variants had notable psychological effects. Famous snipers such as Matthias Hetzenauer, whose confirmed kills numbered in the hundreds, used scoped Kar98ks to devastating effect. Their presence forced enemy soldiers to move with extreme caution, altering tactics, slowing offensives, and creating an atmosphere of fear that magnified the rifle's impact beyond its physical capabilities. Each sniper could dominate a sector, and the simple knowledge that a Mauser could appear at any moment weighed heavily on opposing forces. Environmental conditions often tested the rifle and its users. Soldiers in Norway and the Arctic faced freezing temperatures, while units in France and the Low Countries encountered mud, rain, and fluctuating climates. Despite these challenges, the Kar98k maintained performance. Its robust action and tight manufacturing tolerances ensured consistent cycling, while iron sights held their alignment. The rifle's combination of precision, durability, and psychological impact made it an essential element of German military strategy. Commanders relied on rifle squads to hold flanks, support machine guns, and engage targets at distance, understanding that the weapon could shape the battlefield in both visible and unseen ways. The Kar98k was more than a tool. It was an extension of German doctrine, a physical manifestation of discipline, and a source of terror for anyone facing it in combat. As the war progressed, the Kar98k remained central to German infantry tactics, even as semi-automatic rifles and assault weapons appeared on both sides. Its bolt-action design may have limited rapid fire, but its precision, reliability, and adaptability ensured that it retained value throughout the conflict. From the forests of Poland to the beaches of Normandy, the Kar98k was ubiquitous. Its users learned to exploit cover, distance, and precision, while enemies learned to fear its distinctive metallic crack. The rifle became a fixture of battlefields, shaping engagements and instilling a constant awareness of lethal potential in anyone who encountered it. The city of Stalingrad in 1942 was a nightmare of rubble, smoke, and fire. Every building, every shattered wall, every window became a potential hiding place for a rifle's deadly bolt. Among the most feared weapons in this urban battlefield was the Kar98k, transformed in the hands of snipers into instruments of terror. Unlike the rapid fire of submachine guns, the Kar98k demanded patience, precision, and a steady hand, qualities that could turn a lone marksman into a force capable of slowing entire platoons. The harsh winter and ruined cityscape amplified the rifle's psychological effect. Soldiers reported hearing the metallic click of a bolt, followed by a sudden precise crack of the 7.92 x 57mm round. Often, the shooter was invisible, a ghost among the ruins, leaving no trace but the falling of a comrade. The sound alone could freeze men in place, forcing them to crawl, hide, or advance at a snail's pace to avoid being targeted. In Stalingrad, every window and every corner became suspect, every shadow a possible death. One of the most famous snipers of this period was Matthias Hetzenauer, serving with the German Gebirgsjäger, or mountain troops. Armed with a scoped Kar98k, Hetzenauer recorded hundreds of confirmed kills on the Eastern Front. His deadly precision was both a testament to training and a reflection of the rifle's capabilities. Reports describe Soviet soldiers lying low, abandoning positions, or moving only at night to avoid the sniper's deadly aim. The rifle, combined with skill and patience, became a tool of both physical and psychological destruction. The rifle itself was modified for sniping. Telescopic sights, often the ZF-41 or ZF-42, were attached to selected Kar98ks, turning a standard infantry weapon into a precise killing instrument. These rifles were chosen for their inherent accuracy. Not every Kar98k could be converted into a sniper rifle. Selected rifles were carefully tested and fitted with scopes, and the soldiers who used them underwent specialized training in camouflage, stalking, and firing under extreme stress. The combination of a skilled marksman and a precise rifle made the German snipers of Stalingrad legendary and terrifying. The urban environment made sniping particularly effective and dangerous. Soviet troops were forced to constantly anticipate a rifle bullet from above, behind, or through broken windows. Platoons moved with extreme caution, often crawling through rubble and mud, while German snipers watched from hidden positions. The Kar98k's effective range of 400–500 meters allowed marksmen to strike without exposing themselves, creating an invisible web of fear across the ruined city. One of the most famous stories from Stalingrad is the supposed duel between Vasily Zaitsev, a Soviet sniper, and a top German marksman often referred to as Major Erwin König. Though some historical debate surrounds König's existence, the story captures the terror of sniper warfare. Zaitsev, using a Mosin Nagant rifle, stalked the German sniper through abandoned buildings and rubble-strewn streets. König, in turn, used his Kar98k with scope to hunt Zaitsev. For days, both hunters tried to outwit each other, moving silently, calculating shots, and using every shadow as cover. The duel exemplifies the deadly cat-and-mouse games that defined sniper warfare in Stalingrad, where every movement could be fatal. The Kar98k's bolt-action design, while slower than semi-automatic rifles, actually enhanced its role in sniper operations. Each shot required deliberate action, forcing the marksman to calculate wind, distance, and timing. The rifle's recoil was manageable, allowing for quick re-aiming after each round. Soldiers trained extensively in these techniques, often practicing for months before deployment to high-risk sniper roles. Beyond duels, German snipers used the Kar98k to target enemy leaders, machine gun crews, and artillery observers. By eliminating key figures, they could disrupt coordination, delay attacks, and instill fear. Soviet soldiers wrote in letters home about the constant threat posed by unseen riflemen. Some units reportedly carried small mirrors or binoculars to scan buildings and rooftops for glinting scopes, but the sniper's camouflage often rendered these efforts useless. The psychological toll was immense. Soldiers reported hearing the snap of a rifle in the distance, then waiting minutes before moving, uncertain whether the shooter had taken aim again. Entire squads could freeze, leaving positions unoccupied or forcing retreat. The Kar98k, in the hands of a sniper, had become an instrument of terror, a weapon as effective for fear as it was for killing. Training emphasized patience and observation. Snipers carried minimal equipment: their rifle, ammunition, a scope, and often a small camouflage kit. They learned to use debris, shadows, and ruined walls for cover, blending into the environment until the perfect shot presented itself. In Stalingrad, where urban ruins stretched for miles, the combination of a trained marksman and a Kar98k could dominate entire blocks, slow assaults, and change the rhythm of battle. The Eastern Front also highlighted the logistical role of the Kar98k. Ammunition was standardized, and the rifle's maintenance procedures were simple enough for soldiers in field conditions. The rifle could withstand snow, mud, and water without losing accuracy, and spare parts were readily available through German supply chains. This reliability was crucial, especially for snipers, whose effectiveness depended on both the rifle and the ammunition performing flawlessly. The fear induced by Kar98k snipers extended beyond immediate battlefield casualties. Commanders were forced to alter tactics, slowing advances and diverting troops to counter snipers. Entire operations could be delayed while reconnaissance units identified and neutralized threats. The rifle, modest in appearance, became a strategic weapon, shaping decisions at multiple levels of command. Urban warfare also revealed the Kar98k's versatility. Soldiers carried it through basements, over rubble, and along destroyed streets. In close-quarters encounters, they could fix a bayonet and defend a position, while in open spaces, they could engage targets at hundreds of meters. This adaptability made the Kar98k invaluable in Stalingrad, where combat ranged from brutal street fights to long-range shooting across ruined squares. The rifle's effectiveness was reinforced by German military culture, which emphasized discipline and marksmanship. Soldiers were trained to respect the weapon's power and understand its limitations. Bolt-action rifles like the Kar98k demanded skill, but they rewarded it with deadly accuracy. Combined with the tactics of camouflage, movement, and patience, the rifle became more than a tool. It became a symbol of fear and a measure of skill on the battlefield. The Stalingrad campaign ultimately demonstrated both the strengths and the terrifying role of the Kar98k. While semi-automatic rifles and submachine guns could dominate close quarters, the Mauser rifle excelled in precision, range, and psychological impact. Its users could instill hesitation, fear, and respect in the enemy, turning a single soldier into a force multiplier through skill and discipline alone. Even as the battle raged and casualties mounted, the rifle retained its lethal reputation. Stories from survivors recount frozen soldiers, exposed to snipers in ruined buildings, waiting for hours before moving, their fear of the bolt as dangerous as any frontal assault. The rifle's impact extended beyond individual engagements, influencing entire operations and shaping the course of urban warfare. As the winter turned bitter and the city descended into chaos, German snipers with Kar98ks maintained deadly vigilance. Every shot, every click of the bolt reinforced the rifle's reputation as a weapon of precision and terror. In the rubble of Stalingrad, the Kar98k became an extension of the soldier's will, a tool of discipline, and a source of psychological dominance. The lessons of Stalingrad would echo throughout the war. Soldiers on both sides learned that a disciplined marksman with a bolt-action rifle could dominate, delay, and terrify. The Kar98k, though not the fastest weapon, had proven that precision, patience, and skill could be just as deadly as firepower. Its role in sniper warfare cemented its legacy as one of the most feared rifles of World War II. By 1944, the tide of World War II had turned against Germany. The once invincible Wehrmacht found itself fighting defensive battles across multiple fronts, facing superior numbers and increasingly sophisticated Allied weaponry. Amid this growing desperation, the Karabiner 98k remained a constant, a symbol of reliability and discipline even as chaos engulfed German forces. From the hedgerows of Normandy to the ruins of Warsaw and the frozen plains of the Eastern Front, soldiers clutched their Mausers with grim determination, aware that every shot could mean survival. The Normandy campaign following D-Day in June 1944 demonstrated both the strengths and limitations of the Kar98k. German riflemen armed with bolt-action Mausers could engage advancing Allied forces at hundreds of meters, using terrain, hedgerows, and fortified positions to their advantage. A well-placed shot could disrupt a platoon, neutralize an officer, or delay an attack. Yet the rifle's slower rate of fire made it increasingly vulnerable in close combat against American or British infantry, armed with semi-automatic rifles, submachine guns, and mortars. German troops were forced to adapt, combining the Kar98k with machine gun nests, anti-tank weapons, and improvised traps to maximize effectiveness. Urban combat in late 1944 further tested the rifle's versatility. In cities like Warsaw, Aachen, and later in the Battle of Berlin, German infantry fought street by street, building by building. The Kar98k was used in the traditional role of aimed shots and suppression, but it also became a tool for last-ditch defense. The rifle's familiar weight and dependable bolt action offered a measure of control amidst the chaos of crumbling cities and relentless bombardment. In the east, the Soviet advance brought another level of intensity. German troops, often poorly supplied and exhausted, faced massive waves of infantry, armored vehicles, and artillery. The Kar98k, though not capable of matching the sheer volume of fire, allowed disciplined marksmen to exploit terrain, take careful shots, and slow enemy advances. Snipers continued to play a crucial role. Using scoped Kar98ks, they targeted enemy officers, artillery spotters, and exposed machine gun crews. Their presence inflicted psychological as well as physical damage, forcing Soviet soldiers to move cautiously, sometimes freezing entire units in anticipation of a hidden rifle. The rifle's production continued even as Germany's industrial capacity declined. Late-war Kriegsmodell versions stripped unnecessary features and focused on functional efficiency. Stocks were simplified, metal parts unpolished, and manufacturing tolerances slightly relaxed. Yet the core reliability of the Kar98k remained. Soldiers often preferred older, fully finished rifles for comfort and accuracy. But in the desperation of 1944-45, every functioning Mauser was vital. The Battle of the Hürtgen Forest exemplified the Kar98k's role under extreme conditions. Dense woods, freezing temperatures, and constant enemy pressure demanded patience and precision. German riflemen used their Mausers to pick off soldiers advancing through narrow paths or exposed clearings. One well-aimed shot could delay an attack or force a unit to halt and reorganize. Even as artillery shells exploded and supply lines faltered, the Mauser's bolt-action consistency provided soldiers with a reliable tool in an otherwise desperate situation. In addition to conventional combat, the Kar98k played a crucial role in delaying actions and defensive operations. As Allied forces penetrated deeper into German territory, small groups of riflemen could hold bridges, crossroads, and narrow streets for hours using disciplined rifle fire. Combined with machine guns and grenades, a handful of Kar98k armed soldiers could inflict disproportionate casualties, slowing the enemy advance and buying time for larger strategic movements. This defensive utility became essential as Germany transitioned from offensive campaigns to desperate survival. Sniper activity continued to terrorize enemy troops. The Kar98k, paired with scopes, allowed marksmen to dominate urban and rural sectors alike. In late 1944, records show snipers killing dozens of advancing soldiers in single engagements. The rifle's precision ensured that each shot counted. While semi-automatic rifles could deliver more rounds, they lacked the long-range discipline and psychological impact of a Mauser sniper. Soviet, American, and British troops all learned to respect and fear the presence of a Kar98k in the hands of a skilled marksman. The rifle also became a symbol of continuity and morale for German soldiers. In the face of shortages, defeat, and relentless bombardment, the familiar weight and sound of a Kar98k offered comfort and a sense of control. Troops who had trained with the rifle since early campaigns relied on muscle memory and experience to survive chaotic encounters. Veterans often recounted that simply holding their Mauser gave them a psychological edge, a reminder of discipline amidst the madness of war. The urban battles of late 1944 and early 1945 brought new challenges. Soldiers were often isolated, cut off from supply lines, and facing enemies equipped with tanks, flamethrowers, and mortars. In such conditions, the Kar98k's bolt-action mechanism demanded deliberate engagement. Rapid firing was impossible, but careful aim, patience, and positioning allowed riflemen to survive against superior numbers. Even in the closing months of the war, small groups of disciplined infantry could hold buildings or streets for hours, thanks in large part to their skill with the Mauser. One of the most iconic examples occurred during the final days of Berlin in April 1945. German defenders, many exhausted and lacking ammunition, used their Kar98ks to slow the Soviet advance through the city's streets. Every shot, every carefully placed round, forced the enemy to halt or adjust. The rifle's effective range allowed marksmen to engage from windows, rooftops, and basements, turning the urban ruins into lethal killing zones. Psychological terror, as much as physical damage, became a central aspect of the rifle's final battles. Logistics became increasingly strained during these late campaigns. Ammunition shortages, replacement parts, and aging rifles challenged German infantry. Yet the simplicity and durability of the Kar98k mitigated many of these problems. Soldiers could maintain the weapon in the field, replace worn components, and continue firing effectively. Its reliability under dire conditions ensured that, even in Germany's darkest hours, the Mauser remained a trusted companion for every rifleman. In addition to combat, the rifle influenced strategy and tactical planning. Commanders relied on rifle squads to cover approaches, delay enemy advances, and provide precision support for heavier weapons. Even when artillery and tanks dominated the battlefield, riflemen with Kar98ks could create zones of control, disrupt enemy movements, and protect flanks. The rifle's presence shaped both micro-level skirmishes and larger operational decisions. By the time Germany's surrender became inevitable, the Kar98k had cemented its reputation as a versatile, reliable, and psychologically powerful weapon. Soldiers who had wielded it from the first campaigns in Poland to the last desperate fights in Berlin carried with them stories of survival, precision, and terror. The rifle had endured through the Blitzkrieg, the frozen winters of Russia, and the urban carnage of late-war Europe. It was more than a tool. It was a symbol of German military doctrine, discipline, and endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. The last stands of 1944-45 revealed both the strengths and limitations of the Kar98k. while increasingly outmatched by semi-automatic and automatic weapons. The rifle's precision, psychological impact, and adaptability allowed German infantry to remain formidable. Snipers continued to terrorize, squads coordinated with precision, and riflemen maintained discipline despite exhaustion and scarcity. The Mauser was not merely a weapon. It was an instrument of survival and a mark of skill in the chaos of collapse. The guns fell silent in 1945, but the echoes of the Carabiner 98K persisted. Across Europe, the rifle that had dominated countless battlefields now lay in ruins, storage depots, and the hands of occupying forces. For millions, the Mauser remained a symbol, a weapon that had both defined the Wehrmacht and terrified enemies from Poland to Berlin. Its legacy extended far beyond the end of hostilities, shaping both historical memory and the development of firearms worldwide. In the immediate post-war period, the Kar98k was captured and studied by Allied forces. The rifle's reliability, precision, and adaptability impressed armies that had faced it on battlefields across Europe and North Africa. Military analysts dissected its design, examining the bolt-action system, the 7.92 cut 57mm cartridge, and the sniper adaptations. The lessons learned influenced post-war rifle development, particularly the emphasis on durability and accuracy in bolt-action and semi-automatic designs. Many captured Kar98ks found new life in post-war armies. Nations including France, Norway, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia adopted the rifle, often converting it to fire local ammunition or using it in training. Its presence in these new contexts highlighted the enduring utility of a well-engineered weapon. Even decades after the war, the Mauser action inspired designs for hunting rifles, civilian sport rifles, and military marksman rifles, ensuring that the Kar98k's influence persisted long after the battlefield had gone cold. Collectors and historians soon recognized the Kar98k's historical significance. Original rifles, often marked with production details, unit engravings, or wartime modifications, became highly sought-after artifacts. Museums across Europe and the United States displayed the Mauser as an icon of military engineering and the human stories intertwined with its use. Visitors could trace the journeys of soldiers who carried it, from the first campaigns in Poland to the bitter winter battles in Russia and the final desperate fights in Berlin. The rifle's reputation as a weapon of fear endured in popular culture. Stories of snipers, particularly on the Eastern Front, became legendary. The exploits of German marksmen, the deadly duels with Soviet snipers like Vasily Zaitsev, and the psychological terror inflicted on enemy troops all contributed to the mythos surrounding the Kar98k. While often romanticized, these accounts reflected real battlefield experiences, highlighting the rifle's capacity to shape combat, both physically and psychologically. The Mauser's impact on sniper warfare was particularly notable. The use of scoped Kar98ks in Stalingrad, Leningrad, and other key battles demonstrated how a disciplined marksman could dominate terrain and instill fear far beyond the physical damage inflicted. Training programs, field manuals, and veteran accounts emphasized patience, observation, and precise fire, principles that continue to inform modern sniper doctrine. The Kar98k, in many ways, set the standard for what a sniper rifle could achieve, in both skill and psychological effect. In civilian contexts, the Mauser action influenced countless hunting and sport rifles. Gunsmiths recognized the bolt's smooth operation, reliability, and accuracy, adapting the design for legal and recreational use. The 7.922 57mm cartridge, though no longer standard in military use, became popular among shooters for its balance of power and controllability. The rifle's sturdy construction and straightforward maintenance also made it a favorite among collectors, hunters, and marksmen who valued durability and tradition. Veterans' memories of the Kar98k are complex. For German soldiers, the rifle was a companion, a tool of survival, and a symbol of discipline. Many recounted stories of relying on the Mauser in life-or-death situations, whether in the frozen forests of Russia, the mud-soaked fields of France, or the shattered streets of Berlin. For enemies, it was a weapon of terror, an instrument that demanded respect and caution. Letters, diaries, and oral histories consistently described the rifle's deadly precision and the fear it inspired, evidence of its enduring psychological and tactical impact. The Kar98k also influenced post-war military doctrine. The lessons of sniper warfare, combined arms coordination, and precision rifle use informed training programs in NATO countries and beyond. While semi-automatic and automatic weapons eventually dominated infantry combat, the principles of marksmanship, patience, and strategic shooting established by the Mauser endured. Modern sniper rifles, field manuals, and tactical doctrines all trace roots back to experiences shaped by the Kar98k and its users. Even in popular media, the rifle retained a powerful presence. Documentaries, books, films, and video games depicted the Kar98k as both a historical artifact and a symbol of deadly skill. The image of a German sniper lying in wait, bolt poised and scope adjusted, became emblematic of the rifle's dual role, precise in the hands of the trained soldier, terrifying to those under fire. Its sound, the distinctive metallic crack of the Mauser round, continues to evoke the tension, fear, and discipline of the battlefields where it once ruled. Collectors also appreciate the subtle variations in production. Early pre-war models, mid-war standard Kar98ks, and late-war Kriegsmodel versions each tell a story about Germany's evolving war effort. Marks, stamps, and factory codes provide insight into production, deployment, and the logistical challenges faced by the Wehrmacht. Each rifle is a tangible connection to history, preserving the stories of both triumph and desperation in steel and wood. The rifle's legacy extends into education and remembrance. Military historians analyze the Kar98k to understand battlefield tactics, infantry coordination, and psychological warfare. Museums display it alongside diaries, photographs, and personal effects, offering a visceral sense of the lives of soldiers who wielded it. For many visitors, the Mauser is not just a weapon, it is a window into the human experience of war, discipline, and survival. Even decades later, the Mauser's design remains influential. Modern hunting rifles, marksman rifles, and even certain military bolt actions echo the Kar98k's engineering principles. The balance between reliability, accuracy, and simplicity established by Mauser continues to inform firearm design. For engineers, collectors, and historians, the rifle represents a benchmark, a combination of technical excellence and human experience that few other weapons achieve. The psychological impact of the Kar98k is equally enduring. Veteran accounts, historical studies, and battlefield reports consistently highlight the fear inspired by a trained marksman with a Mauser. In Stalingrad, Leningrad, and other major battles, entire units learned to respect and fear the rifle's deadly precision. Its influence on morale, tactics, and survival strategies underscores its significance far beyond raw statistics of kills or production numbers. The rifle also serves as a reminder of the human cost of war. Each Mauser carried stories of survival, terror, and discipline. Soldiers relied on it to protect themselves and their comrades, while enemies learned to respect its power. Its legacy is inseparable from the experiences of those who fought, the strategies that shaped battles, and the historical memory that endures to this day. In conclusion, the Karabiner 98k stands as one of the most iconic rifles of World War II. From its development in the 1930s to its deployment across Europe and the Soviet Union, it defined the experiences of millions of soldiers. Its bolt-action mechanism, precision, and adaptability allowed it to excel as both a standard infantry rifle and a sniper weapon, leaving an indelible mark on warfare. Even after the guns fell silent, the Mauser's influence persisted. It shaped military doctrine, inspired firearm design, and left a legacy of discipline, precision, and psychological impact. For veterans, historians, and collectors, the Kar98k represents a bridge between engineering excellence and human experience. A rifle whose story is inseparable from the soldiers who carried it, and the battles that defined a generation. The Kar98k is more than wood and steel. It is a testament to the combination of skill, discipline, and fear in war. A weapon that commanded respect, defined strategy, and left a lasting imprint on history. Its echoes remain in the lessons of marksmanship, the stories of snipers, and the memory of those who faced it in battle.